So today I'm going to try to fix, or at least start fixing a vibration I found in the Xterra. So at first thought maybe, so it starts at like 50, 70 miles an hour, somewhere in there. And I thought maybe it was a loose wheel. I just had the tire swapped, so I thought maybe I didn't tighten one of the lug nuts or something. Maybe a bearing was given out, so I checked those, but everything seemed solid there. And then I went underneath the car, and that's where I found the front drive shaft has some play in one of the universal joints. You can see the dogs, they have to ride anywhere the car goes, so they're in the car. Wyatt, are you in the driver's seat? Are you driving? Wyatt's helping me out today. So right now I don't have the universal joints, but to keep them from getting any worse, I'm going to go ahead and take the front drive shaft off, and I'll just be two-wheel drive till I get the universal joints in. So we're down here under the car now. Here's our transfer case, and this is our front axle going to that way. And as you can see, there's a little bit of play in there, which I think is what's causing my vibration. So there's two plates. Oh, thank you, What? Thank you. What? I'm trying to film. I'm trying to be. Thank you. Okay, now we got that out of the way. So I've got 4 bolts. Doesn't look like I can get a socket in there very easily, but we'll see what I can do. Yeah, so I think if I take this drive shaft out, I don't think that's going to cause any problems. There, I'm joking around with this sucker. Get it. Haha. Only 7 more to go. So the wrench that seems to fit best is 14 millimeter on these. Working in metric. And this seems to be the best way to get it off. Break it loose, and it comes right off. Alright, now to the front. Do the same thing. Alright, so I'm having an issue on the front. This is one of the bolts from the back, and it engaged on a flat spot, so I didn't have to put a wrench on it, so it wouldn't spin. On the front, there's just enough space that I can spin 2 of the bolts. So I'm going to try and, I got an extra 14 millimeter wrench. I'm going to try and cut it and modify it so I can fit it on the bolts in the front and see if the cut piece of wrench will actually engage on that flat spot more than the bolt is currently doing. You can see the flat spot that it's supposed to engage with, but I just spun it a little bit around there, so you can see it's rounding off some of the corners of the nut. So let's try the modified wrench. So you can see I had to cut the box end of the wrench. I just got this one from Walmart, but it fits over, so now I've got more engaging with that flat spot, which will hold the wrench still ideally, and I can try and break the bolt free. Let's give it a shot. So it's day 2 of this project. This shouldn't take this long. So 6 of the 8 bolts came out just fine. I've got 2 left where the bolt is actually spinning. I modified the wrench yesterday. Today I'm going to try the propane torch, try and heat the nut up, see if that works. If not, I've got some penetrant spray stuff to see if that'll loosen it up. If that doesn't work, I'm gonna go borrow a welder and just weld the bolt stationary so I can get the nut off of it. So yeah, get this back up on jack stands and we'll give all that stuff a shot. Okay, so the blowtorch didn't work, the penetrating spray didn't work, so at this point the bolts and nuts are so rounded I've got to replace them anyway. One thing I almost forgot was marking everything so it lines back up when we put it on. I'll label this end front, then mark the back end. Alright, there, okay. So I'm cutting this, I'm trying really hard not to hit the actual drive shaft, which is kind of tricky. So just take it slow. Probably shouldn't put my phone here. Got the first one. Gotta rotate it, get the next one. Should come through now. There it goes. And then keep tapping it through. There we go. Now this side of the drive shaft is free. Out she comes. So the drive shaft is out of the car. I've got all the pieces labeled, rear, and then a line lining them up, and I've also got a line on the truck coordinating with that. So I'm going to go ahead and see if I can take these out, which I've never done before, but what I understand these come out. That's no good. Alright, the best I can come up with right now is the yoke is kind of supported on the back of the vise. I'm going to try and just tap this out. That's as far as it goes. then that cap came off. Might have to go back in so I can get the cap off. Almost got it. There we go. And there's half our needle bearings there. That's good for a U-joint to have. Sweet, so I'll do that to the rest of them. Alright, so finally got the parts to fix my drive shaft. Got new U-joints for the front. I also got U-joints for the back as well. While I was driving without this, I noticed that was starting to go. So I also got a new flange yoke for the front of the front drive shaft. This is the one that was giving me trouble with the bolt head spinning up against that face. So I got a new one. Hopefully that'll make it easier to get the bolts back on. And also I nicked this with a grinder when I had to cut the bolts off. So it's probably not a big deal, but I figured this is cheaper than blowing something up. So let's get started putting the new U-joints back into the front drive shaft here. So I ended up getting the Moog ones. These are greasable, come with the Zerk fitting. The front drive shaft is 369 and the back one is supposedly 354, so looks like we got we got your clips, and your Zerk fitting is in here as well. Okay. So this is a 8mm socket. Just get that in there nice and snug. Alright. So I think I'm going to go ahead and put it in our flange yoke first. See how it goes. There we go. Alright, so I've got it set up with the socket on either side to try and push it that last bit home. That's going too far through. Alright, so that one's all the way through. I'm going to put the spring clip in there and then push back on it with this other side. Go. All right. Perfect. Now we'll get the other clip in there. The grease in here is nice. It's thick enough. Some people online were saying to be careful because the needle bearings fall out, but they're staying in place, which is nice. This one's easier to do on the bench just because the drive shaft is attached to it. Well, I say that. Never mind. Back to the vise. Just imagine me pressing in this thing. Alright, so I pressed that in with the socket on the bench vise. Now it's in. I'm hoping that'll loosen up a little bit after a few thousand RPMs. Alright, so just going to do that to the back. Same thing. One thing about the back, because I am using the old part, is remember I've got these marks that line up with that, so I got to make sure that goes that away. Other than that, it's the exact same thing. So the front drive shaft is back together. You got the rear one on, front one on, all the clips are in. So we got 8 new bolts. I could have just gone to the hardware store and tried to get like grade 10s or something, but because I've never seen an 11 on the top of a bolt, I figured I probably should go ahead and get the ones from Nissan. So 30 bucks. Didn't really want to gamble on a drive shaft. Yeah, so time for that to go back in. So there's just a little bit of rust on the flange on the front diff. Alright, so I'm just going to get one bolt in the front and the back, hold it in place. Alright, I think I'm going to start with the front. So I'm going to start in the back because I still have the mark on that flange to line up with the transfer case. So I'll get that lined up and then I'll roll the front wheels forward as I need to in order to line up the other side. Alright, so there's the back. I'll let you guys see the front. Let me get out. Alright. Because we've got this new flange, we don't have to line it up with the diff. Yeah, so this is definitely gonna fit better because that bolt won't even go on. So these bolts are much tighter. Sorry, the light's moving around. To this face here, much tighter. So I think this is going to be much easier to get on. Just don't know how I'm going to tighten them. This cross member in the way. I don't know how I'm going to get the torque wrench up there. Might have to get creative. Let's see. The hole in the top. Might have to, I'm going to jack the front up so I can spin that around and get at those. So I jacked the right tire up so I can just spin that one. And the diff spins till I get at the other holes. Then I'll just let it back down. Oh, bumping my light. And we'll do the same on the back. Okay, so a little undercar update here. I've got all the nuts and the bolts in on the front drive shaft. The issue is you've got to tighten the nut. The bolt doesn't. You don't need to worry about that. But you can't get. There's not room to get a socket back there. There's not room to get the wrench, the torque wrench, and the socket. I do have a little 14mm crow's foot thing, and it rounded over 2 of the nuts. So I need to try and find a 12-point crow's foot. So I've got them as tight as I can with a box end wrench, which I think is probably tight enough. It's supposed to be 44 foot-pounds. But I'm going to try and find a better one of these and actually get that torqued down tomorrow morning. Alright, so it's been a few days. I got a hold of a 6-point crow foot where it's actually grabs more corners of the nut than the other one that I was using, where it just rounds off 2 of the corners. So with this one I was able to torque down the bolts and nuts on the rear end of the drive shaft, but there's an issue with the front, so we're going to go under the car and take a look at that. So the difficulty with the front is I need to get on the back side of that flange, and this cross member gets in the way here, so I have no way to be able to get to the back side of that flange at all. So I think in order to be able to actually tighten those down, I'm going to have to remove this cross member, which is those 2 bolts here and here. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot, see how hard those are to take off. Oh, this is too long. I'm going to cut that. Much longer, but better than nothing. Alright. But it is windy outside. It's crazy. Sweet, now I can get at the nuts. Torque them down. Now I'm pretty sure when you use one of these crowfoots, you're supposed to adjust your torque value, but I don't really want to right now. Alright, so that's torqued down. Time for this to go back. Now, did notice, where is it? That says the front points to that way, so I'm gonna make sure you put it back in. Now the part that's not going to be fun is torquing these bolts down. These are M12s, which have a max torque of like 80 foot-pounds. So, should be lots of fun. Oh yeah. So that was it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. We got the front drive shafts back in. Four-wheel drive is restored. And off to another adventure, I guess. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good one.